Hi guys. No, that's bad. Okay, let's try that again. Hello YouTube. My name is Lily, and I would like to share my story with you today. So, what month is it? It is almost February. So, about a year ago, just a little under a year ago, or a little under a year ago, a coworker of mine pointed out that that I was losing weight. And she said I looked really good and made a lot of compliments, but, nothing ever transpired out of that. And it was just that comment. And other people continued to make that comment, but I never noticed it. I never really paid close attention, didn't really think about it. And it was wintertime because it was February and I'm in Michigan, and so no big deal, right? Well, then I got to April rolled around. And I got dressed for church in a skirt and a shirt, and I looked good. The skirt actually no longer fit, which is weird because it fit like 6 months prior or something crazy, like not 6 months, probably closer to 8 months prior when I put it on to witness or to stand for my goddaughter's baptism. And I'm resizing the window. Hold on. And is it not gonna go? Okay, I guess not. Sorry. Anyhow, when I did that, my mom just was floored. She was like, "You're just gone. Where did you go?" And I admit I kind of blew her off. I didn't know what she was talking about. I thought she was crazy. Fast forward to that Thursday, and I am very sick. That Sunday night, I went to bed not feeling good. I was kind of nauseous or whatever. Didn't think anything of it. Got in bed, went to bed, got up the next morning for work, and felt like garbage. And I was afraid it was the stomach flu because I felt like I was going to throw up. And my mom, I went to work and got out of work. Said, I really don't feel good. I really don't feel good. Got out of work. Well, Tuesday rolls around and I'm like, oh, I'm okay. It's just a little upset tummy. Just need some crackers and some applesauce and I'll be okay. Something light to settle my stomach, but so that I can eat as well. And she said to me, my mom, or not my mom, but somebody saw me and they were like, "You don't look good." And I'm like, I still don't feel great, but I'm here. I'm here. I'm gonna be here. They made me go home. They would not let me stay, and luckily, I work in daycare, and they luckily had very few kids and could send me home without jeopardizing the ratio amounts or whatever. And so Wednesday, my mom said no, she's not coming in, and she was the office manager, so it worked out. She said, no, she's not coming in. You're going to call either do this or do that or, figure out a way to make it work. She's not coming in. And so everybody was home, including my dad. My dad had the day off. And I just kind of slept on the couch all day. And Thursday rolls around. And my mom had forced me to make a doctor's appointment. Actually, she made it for me because it was a peace of mind thing. And I get there and I couldn't breathe. By the time I got into the building, I couldn't breathe. There was just nothing left there for me I was gasping for air. And my mom said to me, she was like, she's like, you've got to do something. She's like, this is crazy. She can't breathe. And they're like, okay, yeah, go sit in the back room and we'll get her room ready immediately. So I went and sat down and they pulled me into a room like within minutes, maybe even within 30 seconds. And they said to me, here, we're going to put you on a nebulizer. And they gave me some albuterol and they, drugged me up. And that didn't help. I still couldn't breathe. They were listening to my chest and there was no wheezing. I was not wheezing. And so I'm telling them, oh, I'm having an asthma attack, and that's not the case. I have asthma, so it's not like, it was abnormal. And they put me on oxygen, and then they start trying to get my pulse ox with that little machine that they put on your finger. And they're like, oh, this machine doesn't work. It's not picking anything up. And they're like, oh, okay. Are you sure? Maybe her hands are too cold. And they're like, oh, yeah. So then they try it on my ear. And then they try it on a different hand. And then they try it on each other. And, well, it's working on each other, but it's not working on me. And here I'm hyperventilating, not because of fear, but because I can't breathe, and I'm pulling as hard as I can, trying to get as much oxygen into my system as I can. And in the meantime, they had made me take a urine test prior to putting me in this room. So at this point, I have two nurses trying to get a pulse ox reading. One administering the oxygen and listening to my chest. A doctor, actually, listening to my chest and administering oxygen. And then my doctor walks in. And he's screaming about something, and I can't hear what's going on. I don't know what is going on. But then all of a sudden, within seconds, all of a sudden, some EMTs come in the room. And at first I thought they were cops, and they're asking me if I've ever taken illegal substances. And I'm like, no, what? Why do you need to know this? I'm confused. What is going on? And they grabbed me by the back of my mom's sweatshirt, because I was wearing my mom's sweatshirt. And they grabbed me by the back of it and dragged me down the stairs. They didn't even carry me. I weighed 123 pounds. And this was like a 6 foot tall, maybe 5'8", somewhere between 5'8" and 6 foot. I was so out of it that he was probably 7 feet tall in my memory. And I just don't know. That's a bad estimation, I know, because like 5'8" and 6 foot are two completely... that's a lot of height difference, but like I said, I was so out of it, I didn't even know. I couldn't even tell you how tall he was, but he could definitely have picked me up. I'm not that tall. I'm only 5'3", something like that. And, yeah, I weighed nothing. I had lost so much weight, and they dragged me down the stairs and threw me in the back of an ambulance. And as they're hooking me up to IVs, the guy says, so how long have you been a diabetic? What? I'm 20 years old. I have never been a diabetic. I'm like, what? And I just went, I'm not. And the guy kind of looked at me funny and was like, oh. What do you say to that? You just told somebody that they're diabetic and they didn't even know. And they finally get me to the hospital and throw me in the ER. And it was scary. I was in there dry heaving. I was throwing up nothing, probably from riding backwards in an ambulance and the fear of what's going on, and then just dumping tons of medications and such in my system. And then they've got me on all these IV bags, and then my dad and my aunt show up, and they're standing out there, and I'm practically vomiting. It took them half an hour at least to finally get some anti-nausea medication in my system. And then comes the ice water. They let me drink so much ice water that I'm amazed I didn't pee the bed before I got to ICU. And I was so cold. My body was in major shock. And so I was so cold that they probably put a good 8 heated ER blankets on top of me, plus my aunt's sweater. And I was freezing, and she was and finally they get me a room within 2 hours, and they throw me in there. They take my heated blankets, they transfer me to the bed, and then take away my heated blankets. And then they give me fresh blankets, and they're like, sorry, ours aren't heated. And I'm like, then why did you take away my blankets? It was cold. That was nice and cozy. And they, doctored me up, had me on all kinds of stuff. Hooked me up to all kinds of different machines and what's its and who's its, and they that night one of my IVs popped out, and so they couldn't get it back in because I was so dehydrated, and I have little veins as it is, that they were like, it's not gonna go back in. Your body rejected it because you're dehydrated and all this. And I was like, crap. okay, so what's the alternative? And they're like, well, it's a little procedure. They said it's not invasive. It's not like a surgery or anything like that. They're like, we're gonna put an arterial line in. I didn't know what that meant until all of a sudden they are putting an IV in my artery. And I consented to this. I was like, oh. And at the time, and to be really honest, he probably said something to me. He probably did. I'm not saying that the hospital totally went against my better judgment or went against me and said, oh, we're just going to do this, and they didn't explain it. I do remember him, saying, oh, it's just a minor procedure. This is what happens. And so he probably explained it to me, and I just don't remember because I was so sick. And my parents, gave the okay. Yeah, it'll be okay. And it was a nightmare because, okay, the hospital that I went to, they have a policy of 2 pokes and then you're done. Well, they had already poked me half to death trying to get a new IV in. My arms were on fire. I hurt everywhere. I was writhing on the bed because I was in so much pain. And they were like, yeah, well, now we're gonna try this. They tried it twice on my right wrist, and they were like, well, now your artery is having a spasm, and I'm like, duh. You just put a needle through it. Of course it's gonna say. What did you think it was gonna do? Like, come on, really? And they were like, so we're gonna try the other one. And I'm like, okay. So they went and got a different nurse, and he tried and couldn't get it in. And then another nurse and looked at it and was like, you know what? I'm not even gonna attempt that. So they went and finally found this nurse that knew what she was doing, and they're like, hey, can you put this in? And she just goes, okay, done. Suture it in. Why couldn't anybody? I don't understand why it couldn't have been so much. Somebody could have done it. But they finally get it all in. And they gave me some morphine. They gave me like 5 units of morphine. Something really little that'll, it knocks the pain out, but it doesn't make you totally loopy. They gave me a little morphine and called it a day. And then wouldn't give me medication for it after that. They like refused to give me more medication for it, and it hurt so bad. It was pretty vicious. And then I slept most of Thursday. I slept most of Friday, actually. And the thing is it was my dad's birthday, and here I was feeling guilty because I was sick and couldn't go to dinner with my dad, and I didn't feel good, and this is the problem. And here now I'm in the hospital on his birthday, and I don't know. It was crazy. It was crazy because here I am dying, and I'm like, I'm sorry, and he's, don't be sorry, just be glad you're okay. And I totally just took my bangs the wrong way, and I was like, you can't help feeling bad because what does that do to my parents, And it just, the whole situation was insane. And finally, Friday I slept all day. Like, I had guests come in, and I was like half sleeping through it. I was like, hey guys, how's it going? I was so tired and constantly having ice on my artery line, and well, it finally went bad, thank goodness, because it was burning. They were putting medications in it, and it was burning, and so it finally went bad, and it wasn't sturdy, so they put a PICC line in, because what happens with a PICC line is it can last up to a year if needed. And so, inpatients can have them, outpatients have them. He said it's a much sturdier line, and it doesn't go bad as quickly as like an IV. He said, so what we're going to do is we're going to put this line in and hook all your IVs up to it. Sweet. Little did I know it was this massive line that they put in through like right here in your arm, and it goes all the way into your chest. And they put it in there, and I'm like, okay, this is a little awkward. You've just done this. Good night. You just put this in, and then they have to x-ray you to make sure it's in because it's in your chest. And I'm like, this is insanity. You just put like 3 yards worth of material into my body, and I didn't feel it. I didn't feel a thing. Where were you when they were trying to put everything else in? I mean, sorry, I got really close to the camera there, but like I didn't understand. And finally, well, and then what really made me mad is because of the situation with my veins, they were having my nurses. It was always supposed to be a nurse draw when they took my labs. And somewhere along the line, they didn't communicate that properly. And so I wound up with nurses would come in, or the lab would come in with people to draw my blood. And I'm like, you're not supposed to be here. And I'm like, and the one lady's like, whoever told you you had good veins is lying to you. And I'm like, I'm not. And this is after I was out of ER. They put me in a step down room, or ICU. They put me in a step down room all by myself. And I'm like, that's because they've been drawing it out of this. And they're like, she's like, oh. And she looks at it and she's like, honey, you've got a lab draw. And instead of going to get the nurse and using her common sense, she just starts jabbing me in the back of the hand. And I'm like, that hurts. Hello? Warn a patient. I was so irritated. And finally I'm like, okay, leave, turn off the lights, bye. Go away. It's Sunday night at this point, or it's Sunday morning. And I haven't slept all night, barely, maybe. And I don't know what, and I want to get out of here like today. I've been here too long. I've been here since Thursday. I want to get out. And they were like, they put me in, they get me through and all that. And I get through this step down room. Saturday was really boring, actually. I'm not going to tell you about that because I was feeling so much better. Sunday, they get me through the step down room very quickly, actually. And they got me into a regular room. And the first thing I did was take a shower, because I don't know if you've ever been in ICU, but they don't let you out of bed for some reason. Like, even if I wasn't a fall risk, and I know there are people there that can't get out of bed. They're that sick. But me, I could have gotten out of bed and walked around, and they wouldn't let me. And finally, they let me get up, and it was the most glorious shower I'd ever had, just to get all the hospital nastiness off of you, And but the thing is they don't tell you how to work the showers before you go take one. And so I was in there for like 10 minutes trying to figure out how to work this shower head. It took me so long to figure everything out that my roommate actually told her nurse that she was worried about me because I'd been in there so long. And they kind of laughed. The nurse annoyed me though. And so I come in. So I come out, get clean, go lay down in bed. And then they're waking me up twice a night to check my vitals. I don't understand that procedure. I don't know if there's a reason for that. I really don't know. But it's very tiring and very frustrating. Because then they get you, the last vital check they do for the night, or whoever, that shift or whatever, for the night shift, was at 6 a.m. And then they want you to eat breakfast because you're awake. And I'm like, no, can I go back to bed? And no, you just have to order breakfast. Because you never know if you can get it after, like 6 o'clock or whatever. So it's like, whatever. Fine. It's not really 6 o'clock. I don't know why I said 6 o'clock. But so they made me order breakfast at 6 a.m. And I haven't had breakfast at 6 a.m. since high school at this point. And so they send me to and finally they bring in all these doctors and they bring in all these educationalists. They throw education at me. They let me attempt to use insulin on myself once, and they're done. That's it. Here you go. Bye. It's Tuesday. We've barely talked to you. Bye. Okay. So it was a little scary, but they did send me home with lots of literature, which I did read up on eventually. So that did help, and I took other classes and stuff since then. So they do offer that service, which was nice. And it's covered by my insurance, which is even nicer because I wasn't paying thousands of dollars for these classes. But it was pretty scary because, I mean, I didn't know anybody with diabetes. Type 2, yeah. My uncle, and he's not even my blood uncle, he's like my uncle by marriage. So I'm not like blood related to him. he was actually, he has type 2. So it was, I mean, he never took medicine, not um, like shots or anything like that. So I never had any experience with it. The thing that was crazy to me is they let me walk out of the hospital. They didn't give me a wheelchair, which I was so tired by the time I got to my mom's car. I was like, oh my goodness. I was so tired. And I came home and I crashed on the couch. I will admit that because lack of sleep, and I'm up crying because I had a horrible roommate. So I'm like crying quietly to myself, like, okay, when will this end? And I got out, and man, it felt so good to be home for so long. It just, the hardest part though, coming home, was the fact that I knew I could do these shots. I knew I could do them. It was the fact, it was building up the psychology to do them. What is making noise over there? My neighbor dogs are fighting or something like that. I don't know. But anyhow, I knew, sorry. I knew, I could do it. I'd done it before in the hospital. I know I said once, but it was probably like 2 or 3 times. But once I got home, there were no nurses to do it for me. My mother was not going to do it for me. I was a month shy of my 21st birthday, and there was absolutely no way. And the whole thing was really scary. And I think the hardest part for me was learning how to give myself those shots and changing my lifestyle completely, because I was a junk food addict. I loved my Coca-Cola. I loved my M&Ms. I loved my candy, especially my chocolate. The other stuff I got pretty much didn't eat anymore. It was mostly chocolate that I liked. And, I liked cold fish, and I liked Cheez-Its and that kind of stuff. And it's not that I can't eat that stuff anymore. And I can have cake and ice cream once in a while, and I can have chocolate, and I can have these things. It's just, it's better not to, all the time. A couple times a week is okay, once or twice, Monday and Friday, for example. But not Monday through Friday and I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. I am an adult, and I have type 1 diabetes. And I live through it every day, and it sucks. The question that I get asked a lot is, how do you do it? How do you give yourself shots? How do you learn that stuff? Because it's my life. It's either life or death, and there's nothing that I can do about that. If I don't take these shots, I die. If I take too much of these shots, I could die. It's kind of a really scary disease, because as manageable as it is, it's still very easy to screw it up. And I struggle through it a lot. My A1C is at like a 10 right now. And it was at a 9 when I first started, and it bothers me that I've been falling off the track. But sometimes it's hard. Some days it's harder than others, and some days it's the easiest thing you could do. It's like going to sleep. And it's becoming a second nature to me, but I need to be better about this, and I need to really sit down and say, look, this is what I need to do. These are my goals in life. Because I don't want these other, I don't want cataracts, and I don't want to lose a leg or some toes, or, have my kidneys completely shut down on me, or have all these other health related issues that come with diabetes because you don't manage it properly. And eventually some of that stuff will happen. Eventually my kidneys will probably I will probably have to go on dialysis, because my body doesn't work properly. And giving myself the medication or not, my body still doesn't work properly. And I hope one day they find a cure, and I hope that this happens. But, at the end of the day, it's not going to happen for a long time. And, I mean, look how long cancer's been around, and they can't figure out the issue there. So, there's a treatment plan, but you can't cure diabetes. Type 1 or type 2, it is not reversible at all. And if anybody tells you it's reversible, ask them to show you the proof that it has been reversed, because there is nothing out there that says it's reversible. Even type 2, you can manage it with diet and exercise and weight loss and this and that. But no, it will never happen. And that's all there is to it. I mean, it really sucks. And believe me, I know. I have type 1. I will be on insulin for the rest of my life. But at the end of the day, you know, I can live with it. I wasn't given a death sentence. You know, this little bottle of medication is life saving. As much as it sucks to put this in my system, by means of something like this is a better alternative than to what was running through my mind when they hospitalized me. I thought I had cancer, then I was really sick and dying, or my body was shutting down, or, as much as I wanted it to be a thyroid problem and I wanted to just take a pill for the rest of my life and call it a day, this right here, this is better. And I think that it's made me a better person because I'm more conscious about myself now, and I pay attention to me. And if I had a cough, it wasn't, I've had a cough for like 2 months, but if I was sick, I put off going to the doctor, and I had strep throat probably for 2 or 3 days before I finally caved and went to the doctor. And I'm not going to do that anymore. I can't do that anymore because it matters. Because if I don't go, it can affect my numbers, and it's insane. One little mistake can destroy your whole world, and I think that makes me a better human being for it, because I understand these risks, and I look at a pile of chocolate and I'm like, do I need that? Maybe, yeah. I was at a baby shower and I took a couple of handfuls. There's nothing wrong with that, having a couple of handfuls of M&Ms or a couple of handfuls of potato chips or pretzels or anything like that. It had been a long time since I'd had chocolate. But I'm happy now. I feel better because before that, for like a good 6 months before that, I slopped all the time. I wanted to win NaNoWriMo. I had won 2012, and I was going to win 2013. And I probably would have if, A, I had a plot line that made sense and I had fleshed out the storyline within reasonable time and hadn't just was like, oh, this sounds like a good idea, with no feasible plot line. And B, if I hadn't slept through half of the contest, or 95% of the contest. I'd come home from work and take a nap. I stayed up till midnight so I could start the contest, and I fell asleep right at like 11:50 and woke up at 12:30 and was devastated so much that I just crawled to bed. Well, I was really tired. And I mean, there was times I have a beanbag chair, and I'd be sitting there watching TV, and I'd fall asleep. It's like 6 o'clock. We just ate dinner, and I'd pass right out in my chair. I couldn't keep my eyes open. And I blamed it on my allergy medicine. I blamed it on everything. But it was diabetes the whole time. And I feel better about, I just physically feel better. I'm not tired all the time. I'm not sick all the time. Well, I am sick all the time, but I work in daycare. I'm not exhausted, and I'm somewhat unmotivated, but it's getting better. The motivation is starting to get there. The constant naps are going away. I haven't hardly taken a nap since the diagnosis. Since I got out of the hospital, actually, because I spent a lot of time sleeping after I got out of the hospital. But now that I see these things, I can improve, and I can be better for it. And I had 2 options the day that I was handed that diagnosis. I could have thrown it out the window and laughed in their faces and refused to take my medication and just let my numbers get really high and not go to the doctor and just not take care of myself. Or I could grab this issue by both hands, crumple it up, slam it down, stomp on it, and say, ha, I've defeated you. I've got the best of you. So why wouldn't I do that second option if it's going to be better for me, if it means I'm going to live to get married and potentially have kids if I can make up my mind about whether or not I want them. Or, my cousin's getting married in November, and I'm one of the bridesmaids. And if I wouldn't be here having this opportunity if I had died or if I let myself go. And I don't understand. There are people out there who don't take care of their disease, and I just don't understand that. And now I'm rambling and going on, and it probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But yeah, that's my story, and that is my standpoint, and I'm sticking to it. My name is Lily Kingston. I am an author, I am a video gamer, and I am a type 1 diabetic. Phew, feels good to get that off my chest. Because I don't tell a lot of people, and when I do, they want to hear the whole story. Well, maybe I'll just give them this video. My coworkers will be pleased, but... And I apologize, I know my hair looks kind of weird in this, but that's okay. It's kind of that, I don't know, it needs to be washed and dealt with before I go to church tomorrow. So there we go. That's my story, and thank you for sharing or letting me share this. And, I want to hear your story. Do you have diabetes, and what did you go through? Video reply it. Write me a letter. Paste it in the comment section. Just tell me your story in the comment section. Message me right here on YouTube and share that with me. Because I want to know I want to know that I'm not alone in this. Especially if you were diagnosed as an adult, and you can remember the diagnosis. Because it scared me, and I want to know that I'm not crazy or that I'm not totally alone. That's another story. That's another video, actually, for another time. Right now, though, I gotta go get ready for church tomorrow and kind of figure out what the situation is right here with the big lump in my bed. I don't know what's going on over there, but yeah. So, good luck. Tell me your story, and I hope I will see you in another video. Maybe a video gaming one. I've been meaning to make a video gaming video. I just need a decent headset. Okay. Thank you. Goodbye.